Okay, so have you ever wished that you could just be totally fluent in English? Like speak without even thinking about it.
Yeah, totally. It's a common goal for English learners.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into this YouTube podcast script that claims to have unlocked the secret. It's all about thinking in English.
Interesting. So basically, they're saying that instead of translating everything in your head, you should just try to think directly in English.
Exactly. They argue that translation is like this huge mental roadblock that slows you down and makes it hard to really be spontaneous.
I could see that. Like when you're always translating, you're not really engaging with the language directly. You're kind of stuck in this in-between space.
Right. And this script says that if you can break free from that translation habit, you'll unlock a whole new level of fluency and confidence.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do they suggest you actually do that?
Well, they have a bunch of cool techniques, but one of the first steps is something they call labeling your world.
Labeling your world. What does that even mean?
So imagine you're just walking down the street. You look around and you mentally label everything you see in English: tree, building, car, dog sign.
So it's like you're constantly creating these little mental flashcards connecting the object with its English name.
Exactly. And the script says that if you don't know the word for something, just look it up. That act of actively searching for the word will help cement it in your memory.
That makes sense. It's like taking charge of your vocabulary instead of just passively absorbing it.
And they don't just stop at single words. The next level is thinking in simple sentences. So instead of just thinking coffee, you'd think, I'm drinking coffee, or this coffee is delicious.
So you're naturally starting to internalize grammar and sentence structure without even realizing it.
Exactly. It's like sneaking in a little grammar lesson while you go about your day.
I like it. It's all about making English a part of your daily life, not just something you study from a textbook.
Right. So we've got labeling in simple sentences. What's the next step in this Think in English journey?
Well, the script suggests something they call narrating your day, which is basically becoming the voiceover artist for your own life.
Ooh, I like that. So instead of just brushing my teeth, I'd be thinking, I'm brushing my teeth. I need to get a new toothbrush. This toothpaste tastes minty.
Exactly. And they even encourage you to actually say it out loud. When you're alone, of course.
It's like having a private English conversation with yourself.
And that's where the real magic happens. By speaking out loud, you're training your mouth to form the words and your brain to process the language more fluently.
Plus, it takes the pressure off because you're not worried about making mistakes in front of anyone.
Exactly. It's a safe space to experiment and really let your English flow.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these techniques fit together, but I'm guessing it takes some serious commitment to actually make it a habit.
Oh, for sure. The script really emphasizes that consistency is key. This isn't a one-time thing. It's about making think in English a part of your daily routine.
So it's like anything else you want to get good at. You have to practice regularly.
Exactly. But they don't stop there. They also talk about the importance of full-on immersion.
Okay, let's talk about that. What do they mean by immersion?
It's about surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Movies, music, podcasts, even changing your phone settings to English.
But I already do some of that. I mean, I watch Netflix with subtitles.
That's a good start. But they encourage you to go beyond passive consumption. It's about actively engaging with the language.
So it's not just about hearing or reading English. It's about actively processing it in my head.
Exactly. Like the next time you watch a show, pause it every now and then and summarize what just happened. But in English, of course. Describe the scene, the character's emotions. Really make your brain work.
It's like hitting the mental gym for your English skills.
Right, and it's not just about speed, it's about comfort and confidence. When you think in English, you eliminate that mental barrier that holds you back.
That makes sense. So we've got labeling simple sentences, narrating your day, and immersing yourself. Those are the building blocks for thinking in English.
Exactly. But there's one more piece to this puzzle that we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. It's a challenge that they propose to really solidify this think in English habit.
Ooh, a challenge. I'm intrigued. Listeners, stay tuned because we're about to level up this Think in English adventure.
Okay, so are you ready to hear about this challenge?
Definitely, hit me with it.
It's called the 24-hour challenge.
24 hours? Whoa, what's that all about?
Basically, for a whole day, you commit to only thinking in English. No native language allowed, not even for a second.
Oh, wow. That sounds kind of scary. I don't know if I can handle that.
I know it sounds intense, but the script says it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can start with a smaller time frame, like just an hour or two, and gradually build up your endurance.
Okay, that makes it seem a bit more doable. But what's the point? Why is this challenge so effective?
Well, think of it like this. You're basically forcing your brain to work in English all day long. So you're kind of rewiring those neural pathways and making English the default language in your head.
Hmm. So it's not just about practicing fluency. It's about actually changing the way I think about English.
Exactly. It's like you're training your brain to see English not as a foreign language, but as just a natural way to think and express yourself.
Okay, I get the concept, but how do you actually do this in real life? I mean, life doesn't just stop for 24 hours.
Right. It's not about putting your life on hold. It's about integrating English into your everyday activities. Like,
Right.
take your morning routine, for example. Instead of just going through the motions, you can narrate everything you're doing in your head. But in English, of course.
So like while I'm brushing my teeth, I'd be thinking things like, okay, time to brush my teeth. This toothpaste tastes minty. I wonder if we need more orange juice.
You got it. And it doesn't stop there. You can do this with anything you're doing throughout the day, like cooking dinner or going for a walk. Just keep that internal monologue going in English.
I see. So it's not about setting aside specific study time. It's about turning those everyday moments into opportunities to think in English.
Exactly. And the script emphasizes that the more you do this, the easier it becomes. Your brain starts to get used to thinking in English, and eventually it just becomes a natural habit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But what about those moments when you just can't think of the right word in English? I feel like that would happen to me a lot.
It's bound to happen, especially at first. But the script says it's okay to use workarounds. Like if you can't think of the word for something, try describing it in a different way or using simpler vocabulary.
So it's not about being perfect all the time. It's just about keeping that English flowing in your head.
Exactly. The goal is to make English your primary mode of thought for that 24-hour period, even if you have to get a little creative sometimes.
This is actually starting to make me want to try the challenge. But the script also mentioned that thinking in English doesn't mean you have to forget your native language.
Oh, definitely. That's
Yeah.
a really important point. It's not about replacing one language with another. It's about expanding your linguistic abilities and embracing the beauty of being multilingual.
So I can still appreciate my native language and culture while also becoming fluent in English.
Absolutely. In fact, studies have shown that knowing multiple languages can have all sorts of cognitive benefits, like improving your memory and problem-solving skills.
Wow. So thinking in English is good for my brain in more ways than one.
Totally. It's like a mental workout that helps you grow in all sorts of ways.
This has been super insightful. I'm definitely intrigued by this 24-hour challenge. But is there more to this script?
You know there is. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some additional tips and tricks to really make this think in English habit stick for the long haul.
All right, listeners, we're just getting started. Stick around as we continue to uncover the power of thinking in English. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into thinking in English. We've talked about all these cool techniques like labeling and narrating your day and even that wild 24-hour challenge.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. But now let's get down to brass tacks. How do you actually make this a part of your everyday life?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, it is. But the good news is that it doesn't have to be this huge, complicated thing. Remember we talked about using your morning routine for English practice?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Well, you can take that even further. Instead of just thinking, I need coffee, try adding some more detail. Like, man, I'm really craving a strong coffee this morning. Maybe I should try that new coffee shop down the street.
So it's like leveling up your inner monologue, making it more interesting and engaging.
Exactly. And you can do this with any activity. Like, let's say you're doing laundry. Instead of just mindlessly folding clothes, you could be thinking, I should really get these shirts ironed. Oh, and I need to pick up some more detergent next time I'm at the store.
It's like turning those everyday chores into little English practice sessions.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. It's like building a mental muscle.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So what about something a little more challenging, like socializing in English? I feel like that's where a lot of learners get tripped up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Social situations can be super nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But that's where thinking in English can really come in handy.
How so?
Well, instead of trying to translate everything in your head, try to process the conversation directly in English.
So if someone asks me, what are you doing this weekend? I shouldn't be mentally translating the question into my native language.
Nope. Just try to understand and respond English right away. It might feel weird at first, but it gets easier with practice.
So it's about training my brain to react in English instinctively,
Yeah.
just like I would in my native language.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you need to, or use gestures. The important thing is to keep the English flowing.
You know, this reminds me of something else the script talked about. Journaling in English. I used to think of journaling as just this personal thing, but now I see how it can be a great way to practice thinking in English.
Absolutely. It's like having a private conversation with yourself on paper. You can write about anything you want, your day, your thoughts, your dreams, and no one's going to judge you.
So instead of just listing what I did, I could write something like, today was so crazy. I had that big presentation at work and I was so nervous, but it actually went really well.
Exactly. And don't worry about making mistakes. Just let your thoughts flow out in English.
I'm realizing that thinking in English isn't just about becoming fluent. It's about making the language a part of who you are.
I love that. It's about integrating English into your life, your thoughts, your experiences.
Well said. And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up our deep dive. We've explored so many different facets of thinking in English, from simple techniques to more challenging exercises.
But ultimately, it's all about finding what works for you and making it a consistent part of your language learning journey.
So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to give it a try. Start thinking in English, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. You might be surprised by the results.
And remember, learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient with yourself and celebrate those small victories along the way.
This has been an amazing exploration of thinking in English. We hope you feel inspired and empowered to take your fluency to the next level.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
Until then, keep those English thoughts flowing.